How's it going? This is Brother Eric Van Bell once again, and today I wanted to discuss the issue of whether or not simply believing in God is sufficient in order to obtain salvation. Many people are under the false perception that all you have to do is believe. If you believe that God exists, if you simply give an occasional verbal acknowledgement of his existence, then that's pleasing and acceptable on his side, and that you will be able to one day make heaven your home based on what you believed. And so many people are being deceived by this false perception. They believe that you can basically go about life living in any manner that you want to, doing what you want to do, when you want to do it, how you want to do it, and not living in the manner that God has ordained or that God has said is acceptable and still be righteous in His sight. I just want to look at a few passages dealing with this, and then after this, we'll elaborate on some of the requirements that have been made by Christ and by God. In the book of John, in chapter number 14 and verse 15, Jesus Christ said, "If you love me, keep my commandments." So it's important for us to understand that he has some commandments. He has laid some guidelines out, and we are supposed to follow those in our word, in our thought, and in our actions. And so many people in this world believe that you can just speak how you want to speak, you can live how you want to live, you can do what you want to do, go where you want to go, be whatever you want to be, indulge in any kind of practices you want to indulge in. And as long as you believe that there's a God, then everything's okay, and that God is going to be pleased somehow. But Jesus Christ said that even the demons believe that there is a God, and they tremble. They believe that there is a God, and we know for a fact that they don't have an opportunity at salvation. So what makes us any better than them in terms of simply just believing and that being enough? But also, there's another passage that I want us to look at that gives a kind of a more clear understanding of what it will be like in the day of judgment when these false perceptions and misconceptions are revealed. And it's found in the book of Matthew in chapter number 7. And I'll go ahead and read it. We'll look at verses 21 through 23. And this is in the words of Christ. He says, "Not everyone that says unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven." And I'll stop right there for a second. He's basically saying that just because you give a verbal acknowledgement of me, and you acknowledge that I am the Lord, and you know who I am, you know I exist, you know my position, you know my power, you know that I am the king, you know all these things, and you may even acknowledge it, but just because of that acknowledgement, it being a verbal acknowledgement or a mental acknowledgement, does not necessarily make you qualified to enter the kingdom of heaven. He says, "Not everyone that says unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven, but he who does the will of my Father which is in heaven." And this gives a clear distinction between someone who says something, or someone who even knows something, and someone who actually acts on what they know and acts on what they believe. And he says, "Not everyone that says unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven, but he that does the will of my Father which is in heaven. Many will say to me in that day." Now he's about to quote what many people will say to him in that day, speaking of the day of judgment. "Many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in thy name? And in thy name cast out devils? And in thy name done many wonderful works?" And he's saying that people will say, "Lord, have we not done this, and have we not done that? I did this, I did that, I believed, I went to church every once in a while, I told a few people about you, I read my Bible, I said my prayers every night before I went to sleep, and I did all of these ritualistic and traditional things. And but Jesus, he doesn't seem to be satisfied with these things that people felt they were doing that would satisfy him. And then he goes on to say, and then I will profess unto them, I never knew you. Depart from me, ye that work iniquity. Now be careful in thinking that you know Christ and that you really have a relationship with him. You need to make sure that he knows you and that he has a relationship with you. It's not a matter of simply professing him to be Christ or saying that you believe, but your faith has to be manifested in your actions. Your faith has to be manifested in your life and in your obedience to his commands. And it's simply not enough to believe. And I would even go as far as saying that for a person to say that they believe and not to have actions that support that belief, they must ask themselves, do they really believe? Do you believe because you really have had a real intimate relationship with God and because you've experienced him for yourself? Or is your belief based on what mom said or what grandma said or what the preacher told you when you were growing up? There's a difference between something that you think and something that you believe. And then there's an even greater difference between something that you know. See, a lot of people think that there's a God just because of what they have been taught, and some people even believe because of what they've been taught growing up, or because of their understanding that has been traditionally passed down to them. But have they really seek God for themselves? Now, there's a difference between believing God and knowing God. I say that I don't believe in God, I know him. Now, you can believe because you've been told about him, or you've been taught about him, and you believe what you've been told or what you've been taught. But when you know him, that means that you have had a relationship with him for yourself. You've diligently sought him out on your own terms, and you found him. The Bible said that if you draw nigh unto him, he will draw nigh unto you. Now, in order to really have a sense of security, a valid sense of security about your salvation and about your relationship with Christ and God, who is Christ, they are one and the same. In order for you to really have a valid sense of security about that, then you need to follow his commandments. And one of his commandments was that we should be baptized. I mean, you look at Matthew chapter 28, verses number 19, and he clearly makes a commandment to the disciples, telling them to go out and teach the gospel, teach all nations, and baptize them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, and teach them to observe whatsoever I have commanded you. And in Mark chapter 16 and verse number 16, he said, he that believeth and is baptized shall be saved. I mean, there's so many other passages. I mean, that's a lesson in and of itself, and we'll go into that probably in the next lesson. But I just think that it's important for us to understand that simply believing that God exists and believing that he sent Christ even is not enough. It takes more. Now, if you really believe, you need to put some footwork where your head work is. You got it in your head saying that you believe it, or you even let it come out of your mouth, but you need to allow your actions and allow your life to demonstrate that belief. Thank you.